Hi everyone, I'm Lokesh. I'm one of the co-founders of the FinShots, and today I'm here to talk about financial literacy and why it's important for us to have financial literacy in the country. Just like everyone, I'm from a middle class family. My father is a bank employee, he's a cashier and bank employee, and my mom is a housewife. And we used to make just enough to meet the end needs in terms of we get a salary every month, and my mom, she's really good at the budget, and she used to kind of divide every single 1,000 rupees into where it goes, what it happens with that. And we do have a huge home loan back at that time. My dad, he had a dream of owning a home, and he kind of luckily he was able to fulfill that dream. But that did come with a home loan, a really big one, and most of our money used to go for that. And I mean that's it. That's really good. When we had a really good life in terms of we never had to worry about the money. We just got enough to kind of make through that. But obviously, we studied hard. I mean, me and my brother both of us studied hard to kind of make sure that we have a better life. And I got into I cleared JEE. I got into IIT, and I did really well in studies. And then I got a really good job. I mean, I got a job that pays really well. Once I got the job, I went there. I was making really decent money, but then I have no clue what to do with the money in terms of saying like what do I do? Like I have, of course I can't spend all the money. I'm making decent money. So what do I do with all the money? I have no clue. So I thought maybe I will learn about that. I mean, it's not something new for me. I'm to learn about new topics. I thought I will learn about that. And the first thing that came to my mind was the stock market. In terms of, okay, it's good if you invest in stock market, the money grows. It's better than let's say bank deposits or FDs or recurring deposits, and we'll grow the money and make better. But I wanted to invest in stock markets. I immediately opened a Zerodha account, and back then it was not completely online. It was some offline process, but it was really simple. Open a Zerodha account. But then the question hit, like what do I invest in? Like what stocks I invest in, or what mutual funds I invest in, or even how much should I invest in? Like should I invest all of the money or should I invest some of it? Like I have no clue. So I started reading about it. I started to understand what happens with that. And the moment you want to understand about a company, one of the things that come up first is something called research reports, where they have like 20-25 page document which talks about lots of numbers, charts, everything. But even after you read the 20-25 pages, most likely you will have no clue about what's happening there. It's just too dense for anyone to understand. And it's not just for me. I tried with few of my friends as well, asking them to kind of go over them, understand what they're trying to say, and none of them kind of were able to make any sense out of it. And these are some really smart people, like who are working on cutting edge technology, who are actually innovating, taking the tech forward. And even these people were clueless about what they're talking about or what one wants to kind of understand. Like if I want to invest, like where do I invest? These people are also completely clueless. And that's when it hit it really hard for me. Like if these people are not able to understand, what about a normal person? What about someone who is not so focused on analyzing numbers or analyzing all the metrics, etc., who don't deal with numbers for a living? So how do they understand? How do they invest? What do they do about their savings? Right about the same time, my brother Banu, he was doing his MBA, and he and his friends, so he has a friend Pawan, so who was focusing on something very similar problem in terms of trying to understand why there are not many people who are investing in India. Like if you compare to the number of people who are investing in India versus let's say US, we're almost tenfold lower in terms of number of people who invest as a whole in the country in terms of the population. So why is it so low? I mean, of course, we do understand it's a developing country. Not many people have enough money to invest. But even after that, there are really less number of people who are actually investing or who are actually part of the stock market, which is the common parlance for investing. So why is that? I mean, they want to solve that problem, and for me, that felt like a really challenging problem in terms of trying to understand like how you can actually make it better. Like, I was working in Samsung, and I was working on something to do with Wi-Fi wireless technology, and the impact there in terms of is there's no marginal impact I can see in everyday personal life, day-to-day life, which I thought maybe I could do if we get more people interested in the stock market. Like in terms of the impact we can have on other people would be much more. So I thought maybe this is much exciting, much more challenging than what I was doing back there in a corporate job. So back in 2018, I left my job and joined these people, all the folks, my brother Pawan and this one Mogesh Shahid. So all these people right out of the college, they decided they don't want to go for corporate jobs, and they wanted to kind of focus on making finance accessible to more people in terms of making getting more people interested in stock markets. Like how do we actually solve that problem? So we started with our initial research and trying to understand what is the root cause, what is the problem here. So first thing we understood is it's nothing about execution. Like if you know what to invest in, there is no problem in investing. There is no depth of platforms to invest in. You have likes of Zerodha, Smallcase, Paytm, or Grow, Kuvera. There are hundreds of platforms which solve the execution problem in terms of saying if you know what you want to buy, you can easily buy it, single click purchase. But the problem is people have no clue what to buy, when to buy, or what really makes sense. So what we thought the easy solution was take the research reports which I talked about, the 20-25 page research reports, and try to see if you can make them interesting, not so boring, not so dense, not so full of numbers. Without maybe we can do something about it. And so that's when our very first initiative started. It's called Finception, where we used to write long form articles, typically 10 to 15 minutes each. So we take a company. So for instance, we take one of the companies, let's say for instance Jet Airways. We dissect how the company started, what happened over the last 10-15 years, what's happening right now. We do talk about numbers, we do talk about metrics, what happened, etc. But companies are not just about numbers. I mean, these are not Excel sheets. That's the only thing there. There's always a story behind a company. There's always a story behind the people who started the company. And what we thought was, it's better to focus on the story of what happens within a company rather than just focusing on the numbers per se. And this kind of that's how we started Finception, and we got a decent traction with that. So we got people really interested in how we tell the stories and what we do, and we got decent number of subscribers in a very short span. But one of the things, like we did it for a few months, and then we realized we're trying to understand who are the people who are actually reading us, like who are the people who are actually spending so much time on each article we write. So we talked to a few of them, and then we realized almost all of these people are already part of the stock market ecosystem, where they already invest, they know what to invest, but for them previously the source was very dense, complicated. Now they found a better source which is easier to understand. And I mean, well, that's great in terms of we are able to help few people, but our whole idea, our whole goal was to bring new people into the market, not just kind of help who are already in the market. So I mean, so we thought we went back to whiteboard and said, what can we do to get new people interested in the market? So one of the reasons we understood is that, I mean, the average person don't really care about stocks so much. I mean, when was the last time you cared about a company so much that you follow them every day, or when do you actually kind of keep reading about similar companies, or analyzing companies every day? I mean, that's not part of what you do, right? So people don't care about those. Then what do people actually care about, right? So people do care about things that happen in their life. Like for instance, what is Bitcoin? Like why Bitcoin goes up, or why petrol prices are going up, or why petrol prices go down, or let's say RBI comes up with some interest or something. So what is the impact of that for me as a person in my own life? Like in my personal life, what is the impact of those things, or how do I understand them? So that's when we thought maybe we got it all wrong in terms of you can't teach financial literacy by directly talking about stocks, by directly talking about investing, but rather you need to kind of get people interested in the finance as a subject in the first. Like you need to get people to see everything from a finance angle, in terms of try to understand what drives things, or in terms of what are the economic factors behind things. So these are the things people care about in terms of the common things. Like I said, like why do petrol prices go up, right? So that's when the idea of InShort started, in terms of let's take the news which hit headlines every day and try to see if we can explain it in a really short format, and explain it in a way so that you understand the why behind it, and also what is impact for you as a person, like in your own life, what does that mean? Like what happens if something happens, what does it mean to you as a person? And that's when the whole idea of InShort started. We started this back in August 2019, and in about a year, or maybe in around around 14 months, we are close to around 3 lakh subscribers. So people, around 3 lakh people read right now. I mean, this is coming from the place where back when we used to write on Finception, the long form articles, around 100 people used to read that. And when 100 people used to read in the very initial days, if 100 people used to read, we used to feel so good. We used to send messages in our group saying 100 people read, 500 people read. We are so happy from that. And from that point now, close to 3 lakh people read every single day. And now when we say around 3 lakh people read, so we need to understand that not all of these people are interested in finance before this. So for instance, let's talk about the podcast. Like we have a podcast on the FinShorts podcast, which is the financial news podcast. So that is one of the top 10 podcasts in the country. So forget about news, forget about finance. That's literally the top 10, one of the top 10 podcasts in the whole country about everything. So we are competing with the likes of, let's say, the religious podcast or the comedy or horror stories podcast. So I mean, that kind of tells that if you tell stories in a compelling format, people do understand. People do kind of get interested in finance as well. It's not like finance is a boring or completely analytical subject. people do care if you tell in a way they understand. So that clearly tells that we are able to kind of get people interested in the finance, and get them to kind of think everything in a financial angle, in terms of look at the things in a financial prospect. And that's what we're doing. But one of the challenges we faced initially, and even one of the challenges we face now, is how do you reach out to more people? Like, how do you get more people to get interested? Some people get interested initially, and how do you get more people to interested? So one of the things we one of the ways we thought would make sense is that people are not comfortable with, let's say, numbers. Like, let's say when you're talking about something, it's not if you just throw them a bunch of numbers, that's not something that will interest them. So what we come up with something called infographics, where we kind of convey visually whatever we're trying to tell. So of course you'll have all the data and everything, but whatever point we're trying to drive home, that's much better conveyed visually. For instance, this is an infographic we did on, let's say, how big the SBI is. So what we could have done is simply give a table saying this is how big SBI and all other people are, like a table of all the numbers. And instead, what this infographic tries to focus is saying, look how big SBI is. It's as big as all the other companies combined, all the other banks in India combined. So this immediately drives home the point, and it doesn't have very less cognitive load on a person. So these, small initiatives like these, in terms of getting people to think, like, imagine if someone comes and tries to talk to you about how big banks are in India. Like, most people would simply say, why do I care? I don't care, right? But imagine showing this as a picture, saying this is what it is, right? Then people suddenly are interested. Oh, this looks good, and then they actually think about that. So these are the different ways we're trying to see how we can get people interested in finance, and this is something we're working on, and that is one of the biggest challenge for us in terms of how do you do more innovative things to get people interested in finance. So we did the initial baby steps in kind of getting people interested in finance. We are able to do that. But if you look at the long term, in terms of what really needs to be done, we need to really, people are not really aware about their own personal finances. So for instance, let's take about my family itself. Like I said, we used to make just enough to live for the month. We have, like, maybe let's say some 10 to 20k buffer if something goes wrong. Imagine what would have happened. There was one instance where my dad got sick, in terms of he was admitted in a hospital, and we had to scramble to get around 2 lakhs money. Of course, my dad has he was in a government bank, so the bank will pay the insurance money. Eventually, they will pay us back. But for us, we have to spend in the hospital, the first 1 lakh or 2 lakhs, whatever we have to spend in the hospital. And both me and my brother were students at that time, and we don't have any recourse to get it. We had to go to our relatives and get the money done and everything. So if that is the case for our family, that would be most likely the case for almost all the middle class families in the country. Like, one emergency, like something bad happens, you're completely out of the whole thing. Like, imagine what would have happened if at that time we don't have the relatives who were able to give us the 2 lakhs money, right? These are and all these problems come mainly because people are not aware of about the financial products. People are not aware about how to think about the personal finance. So for instance, if at all, let's say my dad has an insurance which would pay for any problem upfront. So then we wouldn't have struggled so much at that time. And that's one of the reasons, the moment my brother, he's elder than me. So the moment he got the job, the first thing he did with his first salary is to kind of go and get insurance for my dad, so that we don't face the whole thing again and again. So, and these are small things. Insurance is just one thing. Let's say they talk about investments, right? So like all my friends, like I said, who made decent, way too much money, and all they did was kept it in savings account because they don't know what to do with it. And what you get in savings account is not even enough to beat inflation. So they're working so hard, they studied so hard for 7-8 years in their life to get a big job, and then they are working so hard to make money every single month, but they have no clue in terms of what that money is going to do. In terms of they're just lying around getting wasted because of inflation. And all it takes is some kind of simple education to understand what is inflation, how to invest, or where to invest. So this is what we are focusing right now to solve, in terms of not just create interest about financial news, but in terms of how you can actually make use of that in your own personal finance. How you can make better use of your own money. So we started recently about one thing called Ditto, which talks about simplifying insurance. So one of the reasons why insurance first is simple, because we from a personal background know how devastating it could be if things go wrong, in terms of if something really bad happens. The downside is too much to bear for any family. So that's one of the reasons why I started with insurance. But then people need to understand about investments. People need to understand a lot more. So we as a country have a lot more to grow in terms of, long way to go before we educate people in terms of the personal finance. But I think we are taking small steps to go there. Yeah. Thanks everyone.